Okay, good evening, everybody. It is 6:01 p.m. on August 7th, 2025. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Somerville Planning Board. I am Mike Capuano. I am the chairman of the planning board. With us tonight is our vice chair, Amelia Aboff, our clerk, Jahan Habib, and our members, Lynn Richards and Michael McNeely. We have a quorum. And sorry, pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the planning board will be conducted via remote participation. The video recording of these proceedings will be available on the city's websites, meetings and events page, or by emailing planningboard@somervillema.gov. We have a number of items on our agenda tonight. Very first thing is 59 Bow Street, ZP 24-00098 and ZP 24-00099 has requested a continuance to the August 21st meeting. The chair moves to continue that agenda item to the 21st, seconded by Amelia. Steve, can we have a roll call?
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
Lynn Richards,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
and Michael Capuano.
Aye. That agenda item is continued. The other items on our agenda tonight that will be opened, 181 Pearl Street, 199 Elm Street, 379 Somerville Avenue. And we also have a matter of other business regarding Chapter 91. So before we get started, I'm wondering if the clerk can read into the record the notices of public hearing for the cases that will be at least opened this evening.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. 181 Pearl Street LLC seeks to develop an apartment building in the MR3 zoning district, which requires site plan approval. ZP 25-000030. 181 Pearl Street LLC seeks to establish a residential housing use in the MR3 zoning district, which requires a special permit. ZP 25-000055. 199 Elm Street. Picker Construction seeks to develop a general building in the MR4 zoning district, which requires site plan approval. ZP 25-000031. Picker Construction seeks to include residential development in the MR4 zoning district, which requires a special permit. ZP 25-000054. Picker Construction seeks to construct a mechanical penthouse that exceeds the maximum height in the MR4 district, which requires a special permit. ZP 25-000066. 379 Somerville Avenue. Brickstone Builders Corp. proposes a major amendment to previously approved plans CZC 20-000104 to construct an apartment building in the MR5 zoning district, which requires site plan approval. ZP 25-000078.
Okay, I think we have them all. Thanks, Jahan. At the discretion of the chair, I'm going to take some agenda items out of order, and I would like to invite the person or people who will be here on the Draw 7 Park Chapter 91 signature to be unmuted, shared, and take that up first.
This is Steve Carey. I've just promoted Amanda Gall, who I believe is from the consultant that I think DCR has hired for this.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. And just as a reminder, both you and Amanda and anybody that's going to speak after you for this application and all others, please just introduce yourself, your name, your affiliation, and your address for the record.
Amanda Gall with Weston Sampson on behalf of DCR for the Draw 7 Chapter 91 Beach Nourishment Permit. I am here today to request a signature for that permit application. It's related to the beach nourishment. We're doing a Draw 7. We were able to get a minor modification to the previous Chapter 91 license for the park itself. which we were required to pull a second license for the beach nourishment, which will be occurring below the high tide line. And I do have a plan if it helps. I can share that.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious what we're talking about.
Yeah. All right. Let me know. Okay. I think I'm in. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So within the main park, we'll be making improvements to the vegetation, the parking lot. Sorry, hold on. This is the existing conditions. The proposed conditions is this plan right here. So we'll be making improvements to the parking lot, amenities, utilities to the dam, and incorporating universally accessible pathways that connect to the existing Alfred Street extension path and will also connect to the future pedestrian bridge that will cross the Mystic. But the beach nourishment, which is what we are here for today, will include cleaning up the debris on the beach, which will include like glass, bricks. There's some concrete blocks out there, and replacing what is removed with the appropriate grain size material that will match the existing site conditions. We did a preliminary particle size analysis that was conducted during the design, and a robust sampling program is proposed and will be the responsibility of the contractor. This will include taking samples of 6 different survey profiles along the beach, and each profile will have 3 samples taken just to make sure that we're matching the existing beach material. So that will be happening from the high tide line, which is this cyan color, and below. So any questions?
This is the first time something like this, I think, has come before the board in a long time, which is fine. So I think the expectation of the board is to, Steve, is it to approve a signature or is it to approve the plan?
I think it'd be to approve a signature in accordance with Chapter 91 of Mass General Law.
Does anybody have any comments or questions for Ms. Gall? Okay, seeing none. This is not a public hearing. This is pretty straightforward. We would like draw 7 to be cleaned up. So the chair moves to approve the signature pursuant to Chapter 91, seconded by Amelia. Steve, can we have a roll call?
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
Lynn Richards,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
and Michael Capuano.
Aye. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice night.
You too.
Okay. Next up. Sorry, I lost my agenda. I'd like to bring up 379 Somerville Avenue. If the representative of 379 Somerville Avenue can be unmuted.
This is Steve Carey. I'm promoting Ann Vigorito and Will Chalfant, as I see their hands raised. Anyone else associated with the project, please raise your hand. Not seeing anyone else. Oh, I do see Alon Sassoon also. I'll promote Alon.
Good evening. This is attorney Ann Vigorito from 424 Broadway, Somerville, joined this evening by Will Chalfant of Calsa Design. He is the architect for this project. Also, the developer is here, Alon Sassoon, and Jerry McDonough, if there are any questions relative to them answering. So a little bit of a history here. We were before you about 4 years ago on this project, I believe, and we were granted zoning relief to construct a building. This is at 379 Somerville Ave. And historically, it's a little bit before my time, but it was a nightclub called Thunder Road. So I know originally we had talked about having that come back. Well, after zoning relief, as things progressed in the building permit stages, things changed relative to Eversource. And I'm not sure if the board knows, we were before the zoning board of appeals last night for 4 variances regarding this matter. So that's why we're now before you. What I'm thinking is at this time, last night, we're going to keep it kind of similar, a little condensed of a presentation of what we did from last night. It just makes sense. Will take over. He has a timeline because he was the one working on the building permit, and then the issues.
And can I
Oh, yeah,
interrupt you
sure.
real
I'm so
quickly?
sorry, Mike.
No, that's okay. So it's my understanding that because you now have these variances, yep. I think there needs to be some discussion between your team and planning staff on some suggested revisions to the transformer shield and alternatives that can be presented to us before we kind of move forward here. I think we're a little bit premature because
Okay.
we've just gotten this in, and what I'd like to do is see if we can come back now that we've opened you and kind of understand the situation that you're in, to come back in a few weeks once you've had an opportunity to discuss with planning staff some thoughts and plans on steps moving forward, because I think we're not at a place where we feel ready to take this project up based on the complexity of the history here.
Apologies. A little confusion, Chairman Capuano. Last night, the ZBA had referenced the planning board. They didn't say planning staff. So that's why I wasn't sure if it was something, but I appreciate the clarity because we would have reached out this afternoon. But, and that happens a lot in meetings as they get a little later in the evening, planning board versus planning staff. So Will and I can definitely reach out and probably, I think we've been working with Kit. So I think we'll keep with Kit.
Let's be very clear. Planning staff is a lot smarter than,
Now,
than
I
certain
would,
members of the planning board.
I don't know about that. I've seen you folks, make changes when we've come before you and,
Mhm.
and you did it on this very building and it ended up being a much prettier building. Maybe that's not the right word, prettier, but it looks a lot nicer, I think.
Mr. Chair, does it make sense to show you like a minute of stuff just to, so you have a
At this
baseline?
point, I want to make sure everything is kind of vetted through the staff first before we have an opportunity to look at this thing holistically.
Fair enough.
And before it was Thunder Road, it was Radio Bar, and before that, I think it was Club Choices. So
Wow, that's quite the history lesson. But so would you like us to continue to the next planning board, which is in 2 weeks?
let's do that. And if you need
Okay.
more time after the 21st, obviously we're happy to give you the time that you need.
Okay. Thank you.
But-
Appreciate
So
it.
could I ask a quick question to city staff just on deliverables to them in order to get on the next planning board hearing, just so we can understand logistically how that's going to work? Would we need to, because typically we need to get it to you at least a week in advance.
This is Steve Carey. I would say reach out to Sarah Lewis and Lexi Payne. Lexi Payne had been the case planner on this. She was unable to attend tonight, and Sarah Lewis had an appointment. But I would say reach out to them for a deliverable. And it is typically 2 weeks for items for staff review, or a week for something the board to review. So, obviously this is a somewhat unique case. So I would reach out to them, and they can clarify.
Sure. Thanks.
Well, I'm going to be optimistic and I will ask to be continued to the 21st. And obviously, if we need a further continuance, we can do so in a timely fashion and not have to come here and ask for it.
Wonderful. Okay, with that in mind, I'm going to move to continue this agenda item to the 21st, seconded by Amelia. Steve, can we have a roll call?
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
Lynn Richards? Oh, Lynn, I'm not sure if we heard you.
Aye.
Yep. Amelia Aboff
Aye.
and Michael Capuano.
See you in a few weeks. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Have a great night.
Thanks.
We have two cases left, 181 Pearl Street and 199 Elm Street. Let's go in order. Let's go 181 Pearl Street first. So if that applicant and team can be unmuted and shared and all sorts of good things, let's do it.
This is Steve Carey. I see Pablo Picker. I'll promote him to panelist. I see a couple other, I see Paul Miller with his hand raised. I'll promote him to panelist. I also see Curtis Puncher with his hand raised. Not sure if he's a member of the public or a member of the, yeah, Pablo, should I promote Curtis as well? Okay.
Yeah, yes, please. Thanks.
Everybody,
Are we good?
you have everybody you need?
Let's see. I got Paul and Curtis. Yeah, got my team. Good. Okay, great. Good evening. My name's Pablo Picker. I'm the owner and developer for 181 Pearl Street. Also, I'll also just make a note that we will also, same team will be presenting 199 Elm Street. So we're excited to be here, Chair Capuano and board members. Good to see you again. This has been a long process. We started this in 2023 of July. So these are 3 units. It's a challenging site. It's been quite the journey, but we're excited to present tonight. And hopefully you can appreciate and see the vision that we've been working on, the improvements to the neighborhood, to the corner, and to the site. So I'm going to pass it off to Paul Miller, who's going to present, and Curtis will be leading the landscape architecture part. So thank you.
Thanks, Pablo. Good evening to the board. It's good to see everyone again. I'm Paul Miller, principal at Neighbor Architects. We're leading the design team on this project, and I'm joined tonight by Curtis Puncher from Ground Inc., who is the landscape architect. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, we can get started. Can everyone see my screen okay? Great, okay. So just to start off with a little bit of context about 181 Pearl Street. This is in East Somerville near Gilman Square. You can see our site highlighted here in red. Gilman's at the kind of end of Pearl Street, up near Sarma, the high school, the library. It's an exciting site to be working on at the corner of Pearl and Dana and adjacent to McGrath Highway. It's got a lot of visibility because of the movement across McGrath. And we feel like it's a well-connected site as well and a great opportunity for transit-oriented development. There's good access to bus lines as well as the Gilman Square T station and many public amenities within walking and biking distance. This is the photograph of the existing site, the former Mudville Pottery Studio that was there. It's since been demolished and is waiting for the next steps of the project. The context is, the immediate context are 2.5-story single family and 2-family homes, as well as triple deckers nearby. There's a gas station across Pearl Street, some larger 6-unit buildings and larger masonry buildings. As you move further down Pearl Street, they get up towards 5 and 6 floors. So what we're proposing on this site, which is zoned MR3, 3 residential apartments. The building's 3 stories and about 3,600 gross square feet. We kind of at the beginning of the design process began by looking really carefully at the site, given that it's quite tight. And we really wanted to create something that was a benefit to the neighborhood, given the high visibility corner and sort of the lack of street amenities like trees and plants at this corner. So we've wrapped both Dana and Pearl Street with a planter that Curtis from Ground is going to talk about in a little bit. We also added a street tree on Pearl Street, and beneath that street tree, a bench which is built into the planter and kind of extends the stoop culture, that we see throughout Somerville. The entrance into the site is off of Pearl Street. We wanted to make sure that that anyone could access this building. There's ramps are required in the Somerville zoning code and also a 0-step entrance into the building. So rather than having a separate ramp and stairs, we felt it would be important to integrate the access into just a single ramp. So this ramp comes off of Pearl Street and leads to a small courtyard entrance into the building where there's a small lobby with bike parking for residents. We are using permeable paving throughout the site. And it is an all-electric building. This is a view of the project from Pearl and Dana Street. The primary cladding material is an aluminum panel in a color called silversmith, which picks up the color of the sky and the neighborhood around it. We wanted to use aluminum as a kind of robust material and use it in a contemporary way, given the context around the building, the proximity of McGrath Highway. We wanted something that felt kind of robust here. But we were interested in picking up on some of the cues throughout the neighborhood. And so we see this triangular profile that we've selected as a kind of contemporary interpretation of clapboard siding. Here it's run vertical, but you still get the kind of shadow lines across it that you would see on clapboard siding. And as we've carved away balcony spaces for each unit, we're using a mint green color that picks up on some of the plants in the planters and the new street tree. And you see in the foreground, as well as on the site walls, a red brick cladding on the planters and those walls that kind of picks up on the red brick planters that you'll see throughout the neighborhood, as we're showing here in the lower left-hand corner. This is a view from Pearl Street looking towards the entrance. You can see those site walls that I was just describing. And a copper colored metal panel that serves as sort of an accent on this entry sequence into the building. And in a close-up view of that entrance, you can see the bench that I was describing earlier and a close-up of the ramp. Just another view of that entrance off of Pearl Street. And this is the Dana Street facade. You can see the other red brick site wall. We really were trying to be thoughtful about how we treated the edge condition here, given the kind of proximity of the neighbors. So the site wall is designed so that it's tall when it needs to provide privacy, and it drops away a little bit when it doesn't need to. I should also say that the property line for 181 Pearl Street runs down the middle of the Dana Street neighbors driveway, and our clients felt it was important from the beginning of the project to allow them to keep their driveway. And so we started our design project from the kind of edge of that existing driveway. Just some details on the facade. We created a kind of break line at each floor that the windows and the cladding are aligned with. And we're bringing color into the the material palette with the guardrails and the sashes of the windows. I'm going to hand it over to Curtis from Ground to talk about the landscape design.
Thanks, Paul. Curtis Puncher from Ground Landscape Architects, speaking at 181 Pearl Street. 100% of the trees, shrubs, grasses, and perennials on this project are native. As Paul mentioned, we are wrapping the building on 3 sides with planting, sort of soften that pedestrian experience along this section of the streetscape. There are bulbs in here as well. They are, early spring interest. So they do deviate from the native palette, but they're sort of isolated in their seasonality. Elsewhere on the project, we do have permeable paving planned north and west. And there is a sunken gravel surface sort of plan northeast on the top of the page there. That's to allow light into a lower unit. So all of the hardscape surrounding this building is permeable. And we'll sort of revisit that when we talk about the green score. And there is currently no street trees adjacent to this property, and we are adding one white oak you see there on page south on Pearl Street. Go ahead for the next slide. Here's just a closer look at some of the species that we're using. Again, all shrubs, perennials, and grasses are native, as well as the tree, of course. Next slide. Just a quick look at some of the details here, as well as getting into the green score. So our target for the project is 0.3, and we're achieving a score of 0.33. To get there, we're looking at the soil depth greater than 2 feet, and that's achieved in that perimeter planting, as well as the permeable paving that's wrapping the north and west side of the building. And the species that we are using will grow more than a good portion of the species we're proposing will achieve a 2 feet or higher maturity. But there is a portion ground cover species that will be less than that. So taking all of those factors into account, that's how we get to that 0.33. And I wanted to keep it brief because I want to leave room for questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. So, we're excited to hear your feedback on this. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, so right now I will probably open it up to public testimony unless there's anybody on the planning board that wants to ask anything of the applicant or of staff. Yeah, Amelia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the applicant's explanation and emphasis on sort of accessible and universal design in the exterior and the access to the building. Could you just take us through the accessibility of the interior of the units for a moment?
Yes. So the ground floor unit is also, it's a 2-level to duplex unit, and we're providing a lift for that unit so that those levels can be accessed. The second floor and the third floor are walk-up units, so they would not be wheelchair accessible.
Thank you.
Anybody else before I open it up to testimony? Okay. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is open up this public hearing to testimony for anybody that would like to speak in support of the application. Please hit your raised hand button and I'll call on you in the order in which I see you.
This is Steve Carey. Not seeing anyone
Nope,
raising their hands in the audience.
not yet. Going once, going twice. I'm gonna close that portion of the public hearing. I'm gonna open it up to anybody that wants to speak in opposition to the application or express concern. Please raise your hand. Okay. Going once. Going twice. Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the public hearing and bring it back to the planning board for discussion. So, Amelia, you had asked a question. I don't know if you had any follow-up that you wanted to bring up now.
Not on that topic, thank you.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. So it's going to be a three. So first of all, I appreciate you doing something with what's a difficult site to work on. Kind of with the corner location, kind of set back from McGrath Highway. It seems like you have a little bit of a boundary issue with the neighbor and the driveway. So I can't speak on behalf of them, but if I were them, I'd be very appreciative of the fact that you're working with them to not take away their driveway. So for the 3 units that you have, can you tell me about the unit mix that you've got?
Yes, they're all 2-bedroom units. They're fairly compact. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the floor plans here. I'll start with the kind of typical units, the second and the third floor. So as I mentioned, they are walk-up units. It's a single stair building, and you come out of the stairwell into your kind of kitchen and living room space. Both units have a balcony off of that kitchen and living room space, a covered balcony. And then there are 2 bedrooms on the north side of the plan, as well as the bathroom. So this is the second floor. The third floor is very similar, except it has bay windows. And the balcony kind of centered between those. The bedroom and bathroom configuration is the same. The first floor unit is the unique one. As I mentioned, it is accessible. And the first floor has a generous sized kitchen and living room. And then down on the lower level, there are 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms.
The other question I have kind of relates to, well, not relates to, but it is somewhat directed to staff. This application, as I recall, is putting in 3 units and does not provide any parking as they're not required to. Do we have our standard condition about residential parking stickers on this?
This is Madison Anthony speaking from staff. I was the case planner on this project. I didn't list that as a condition because mobility just didn't list it in their standard condition list for this project for whatever reason. But if the applicant would be open to adding that, I think it would be a great idea.
That is a standard condition that the planning board includes when a project does not include parking in a dense residential neighborhood. That's close to transit, which this is.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
sorry,
oh,
Madison.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think if the applicant would be open to it, it's a good idea to add it.
Yeah, I think from the if I may check up on from the beginning of the process, I think we were very aware of the context of the site, close to transit. I mean, we all know Somerville well. And that's part of the reason. I mean, it was very challenging to get everything that we needed, but it's part of the reason that we tried to make those biking, the bike inside. There was versions of this with kind of parking from the bike from the exterior. So we wanted to put an emphasis on safe interior bike parking, geared towards people that, are not going to have cars and won't have, stickers to park in the street. So It was our assumption from the beginning.
That's great to hear, Pablo. Thank you. Because I actually, when people talk the talk, I want to make sure that they actually walk the walk as well. So I'm going to propose that as an amended condition to our standard list. And I would ask Madison and staff going forward that we have a discussion by the planning board that this should be, in my opinion, a standard condition on new development where parking is not being put in. So those were my two thoughts. I do appreciate you guys working kind of diligently on a site that's, like I said, more difficult. I'm not always a fan of super modern designs. But this one, it's a little bit different in a way that I think kind of works. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Who else? And I apologize, everybody. I'm kind of getting over a cold, so if I sound like I've been smoking parliaments in the backyard, that's not actually the case. Anybody else have any questions or comments of the applicant? Okay. All right. Well, I was not anticipating moving forward with this one tonight, but it seems like
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
yep, Amelia, sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to refer back to the submission documents to make sure I had this straight. I think one of the comments that was provided by the UBC, and I'm just trying to check whether it's in the recommended conditions for the staff memo, was submission of final materials to planning staff for review. And I think given the more modern palette here, and particularly the use of color as an accent, I would love to just make sure that the planning board is going to codify that in our conditions that are a little bit more binding as well. I don't have any major concerns, but I think it would be good practice, and I thought that was a good call on behalf of the UDC. I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble finding if that's an existing recommended condition or if that would be a new one.
Amelia, can you say again what your proposed condition is if it's not already listed?
That material samples, including color samples, be provided to staff for final review before construction. Sorry, I know we have standard language on this. I'm just not.
Yeah. To the
Fine.
extent that that is not already listed in the list of conditions, I'd support putting it in.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
A condition requiring the review of materials prior to submission of application for a building permit
Okay.
is how it was worded on the UDC recommendation.
Correct.
Let's
We were anticipating that.
Thank you.
Yep.
let's put it in. Anybody else? Okay. Following public testimony, review of the submitted materials, and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the ordinance, I move to approve with conditions as amended in the staff memorandum and discussed tonight. The site plan approval to develop an apartment building in the mid-rise 3 district, seconded by Amelia. Steve, can we have a roll call?
John Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
Lynn Richards,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
I
and Michael Capuano.
Aye. And following public testimony, review of the submitted materials and deliberations of the required considerations and findings outlined by the ordinance, I move to approve with the conditions laid out in the staff memorandum and as discussed tonight, the request to establish a residential housing use in the MR3 zoning district, seconded by Amelia. Steve, please call the roll.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
Lynn Richards,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
I
and Michael Capuano.
Right. I believe those are the only 2 votes we have to take on this application. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. We will see you in a second, I guess.
Okay. Very similar project. 199 Elm Street. Yeah, it's same team. Just stay on.
It is the same team.
Same team, yeah. You just tell us when to go.
Go. And in
Okay,
fact,
okay.
for the purpose of a clean record, please just reintroduce yourselves.
Yes,
Will
I was
do.
planning on. Good evening, Chair, and Board. My name is Pablo Picker. I am the developer on 199 Elm Street, and along with Paul Miller, we are super excited for this project. We have not been working at it as long as the previous one, but we're all very familiar with the area, the context, the site. Is next to some favorite businesses of ours, or not ours, but that we go to and enjoy. And from the beginning, we had a fun time designing this building and thinking about the future of Davis Square and the things that are coming, and trying to respect our neighbors and the businesses that we enjoy going to. And we're very excited for presenting tonight. So I will pass it over to Paul again, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Pablo. Good evening again to the board, and thanks for having us tonight. I'm Paul Miller, principal at Neighbor Architects, and I'm joined by Curtis Puncher from Ground Inc., who is the landscape designer. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll start the presentation for 199 Elm Street. Can everybody see my screen again? Okay, great. Okay, so you can see the site 199 Elm Street highlighted in red towards the bottom of the page. It's on the east side of Elm Street, sort of at the southern end of Davis Square. You can see Davis Plaza up to the north here, and the Davis Square T-stop is right next to that. In the foreground is Cutter Plaza. We wanted to just quickly highlight a couple of the city planning initiatives. These are both from the Davis Square Commercial Area Plan. There's a thought of enlarging Cutter Plaza and kind of enhancing it. And there's also a thought about reimagining Elm Street in the core of Davis Square as a more pedestrianized kind of version of itself. Our block that we're working on was identified for enhancement in summer vision and has been zoned MR4. So we're excited to be working in this context of this area that's been identified for enhancement. We love Davis Square. I happen to live very close by to here, so it's an exciting opportunity for us. And just a quick transit and amenities map here. 199 Elm is at the center. Of course, there's lots of bus lines close by, the Davis Square T-stop, and many amenities in close walking distance. So we feel that this is a terrific site for a transit-oriented development. This is a view of the existing building. It's an existing two-story building that has been used for commercial space. The existing curb cut we're proposing to fill in. No significant trees will be removed, but the existing building will be removed as part of the project. And we've received permission from the Historic Commission to remove it. Here's a view looking north on Elm Street. There's a nice, kind of as Pablo was hinting at, there's a nice kind of run of restaurants along this side of Elm. Revival Cafe is right next to our site, Dachshund next to that, and then the former Posto, which is relocated to Assembly, unfortunately, is another great commercial space that we expect to see filled sometime soon. Mem-T is just across the street. And then this is a view looking the opposite direction on Elm. You can see our site in the foreground here, Revival and Dachshund. So this is our proposed site plan. Again, it's an MR4 zoning district. We're proposing a ground floor commercial space of about 1,700 square feet, which we feel will create an active streetscape and a real sense of place here, kind of building off of what Revival and Dachshund are already making with their great little courtyard space between those two restaurants. We're proposing 3 levels of apartments above the commercial space, which will be 10 units total. Those will all be Group 1 accessible units, adding much needed accessible housing to the city's stock of housing. The building will be about 15,000 gross square feet and 4 stories tall. We're proposing 2 new street trees and 2 new public bike racks. And as I was already saying, this is a transit-oriented development. There's no car parking required or proposed here. There's a large bike room, though, through the residential lobby, which provides long-term bike parking for residents. Another important feature of this project is that it will need an electrical transformer, and these are a real challenge on a relatively tight site like ours here. This is a 42-foot wide site, give or take a couple of inches. We want to have a generous, commercial storefront, and we need to provide access to the residential apartments. We really didn't want to have the transformer in the facade. It's a disruption to the streetscape, and so it was important to us to find a place to put it on the site. And so for that reason, and also because Revival has this really wonderful mural, which we'll show in a minute, on the north facade of their building, and a couple of windows in that facade, we wanted to step the building back and create a little courtyard, which you'll see in the renderings, that provides access to the building and helps create a sense of place. Again, like kind of building off what Revival already has on the northern face of their building. You can actually see that mural in the lower right here with the elephant and the flowers, and that window this window in the lower right will be kind of off of our courtyard now. So we're able to preserve the light into cafe on that side. We love these murals along Elm Street. We think that they're kind of the most prominent and our favorite architectural feature of this area. So in our design, we're interested in kind of building off of the energy that these have and the color. And we also want to make sure that we're tying into the context of Davis Square. You see a lot of brick, a lot of masonry, and of course, these kind of small to mid-size commercial spaces that everybody loves throughout Davis Square. Okay, so here's a view of our proposed design from Elm Street. You can see we're picking up on the elevation of Revival next door. That continues down to Daxan and Posto as well. So there's a clear kind of ground story band here that is the commercial space primarily. We're showing it with folding windows so that it can open up in fair weather, like you see in some places in Davis. Revival has folding windows. If you go down to Diesel Cafe, they have roll-up garage doors, and it's just so lovely in the limited time of year when it is fair weather to be able to open these up. You can see, we'll have a close-up in a minute, but that small entry courtyard where there's a door both to the commercial space and the residential lobby. And let's see, so above that ground floor, we're proposing 3 floors of residential apartments. You can see that the building steps twice more at those upper floors to create space for balconies that feel kind of distinct from each other. And so that's 1 balcony per front-facing unit. The material palette, we are proposing precast concrete at the base, which would be a kind of charcoal color, similar to what you see in Revival. And we feel like that complements the buff colored brick above, which recalls what you see at the Somerville Theater and elsewhere throughout Davis Square. There's a close-up there of the ground floor restaurant and the entry courtyard. And we have views, each of these with windows open and closed. This is a view looking across Elm Street, kind of on the oblique, to describe another important design move, which are the stair towers. We wanted to use those to break down the massing a bit and kind of describe what's happening on the inside of the building. So we're cladding those in a bright blue glazed brick. which we feel like is a nice complement to the warmer buff colored brick that's part of the main massing. And that move also makes the kind of breaks the scale of the building down more to a human scale where you can see the size of the apartments on the outside of the building. I'll also point out the special permit for the I believe it's described as a mechanical penthouse in the zoning code. That's actually the elevator bulkhead. And the reason that we need that is because this needs a commercial elevator to meet the code. We're proposing a really beautiful roof deck that has it's a green roof and also amenity space, and we're required by code to provide accessible access to that, and that means an elevator. If we're going to have a roof deck that's occupiable, the elevator has to go up, and this is the minimum height of an elevator going to that level. It's about 15 feet above the roof deck. So we've tried to hold it kind of as low as we can, but if we're going to have this rooftop amenity, then the elevator just needs to be that tall. This is a view looking kind of south on Elm Street. You can see the other stair tower here. These are existing trees to remain, but just so everyone can see what's behind there, it's a lot line wall, so we can't have any windows, but we are trying to make it as elegant and interesting as we can, while for the time that it is exposed until the adjacent sites are redeveloped. And then just ending with a close-up view of the courtyard. I think this is this was the first move in the project, solving for the infrastructure and for this really nice neighboring condition. And I think it really pointed us in a good direction, a strong direction, and informed the design moves that came after. All right, a couple more views here, and then I'm going to hand it over to Curtis. Okay, Curtis, I'll let you describe the landscape design.
Thanks, Paul. Again, Curtis Puncher, Ground Landscape Architects, 199 Elm Street. So as Paul mentioned, we do have 2 street trees on Elm Street. There are overhead wires on this part of the street, so we have selected hedge maple, which are on the City of Somerville's recommended species list for this condition. Inbound of the sidewalk, we do have permeable pavers. They are not permeable because there's such it's fairly limited space, and where there is a setback, we are over that aforementioned transformer vault. We do have permeable pavers in the back of the site, where there's a somewhat generous patio for the ground floor tenant, ideally a restaurant. And the tenant will have a big say in how that site is furnished, but we would like to see planters out there. Those planters would not count towards our green score. Next slide. Our green score is all wholly, well, aside from the permeable pavers, the planting portion of our green score is provided for by the rooftop planting. As Paul mentioned, it's a pretty nice space up here. A mix of sort of private spaces, as well as a more communal space, sort of mid-deck on the north. There are 2 grills there. There's sinks there, so and a sort of harvest table. Around the perimeter, it is 10-inch soil depth and 100% native species sort of perimeter planting. And then inbound of that, you'll see a sort of darker green. Those are planters, so those will be 24 inches high, or 42 inches high, because they will be acting also as a guardrail. and they will be vegetable planters available for use by the occupants of the building. The rest of the deck is pretty flexible. Furniture wise, it'll be wood decking, pedestal mounted.
Can I add something here that's important about the roof? We don't have any rooftop HVAC equipment because we're using an integrated heat pump, which has the what would traditionally be the outdoor equipment integrated with the internal vertical stack. And so it vents through the facade and allows us to have a kind of fully planted and kind of amenity roof rather than having the rooftop equipment.
Yeah, that's yeah, it makes for a great space, I think. The next slide is again is a closer look at that plant palette. And the next slide is sort of some inspirational images we've been looking at to sort of inform the space. So again, with that sort of native palette, a sort of, you know, meadow feel to it, with the generous occupiable spaces. And then our final slide here is just to look at that green score again. I think our target was 0.3 and we've achieved 0.357, I believe. And again, that is achieved through the permeable paving on the patio at the back of the site, that 10-inch soil depth growing medium for the rooftop, and a good portion of our species will grow to at least 2 feet tall. And that's all for me, unless anyone else has questions on that.
My question is, I saw something called a tater tot arborvitae. Is that really the name of it?
Yeah, it's a variety of Thuja occidentalis. So it is a cultivar of a native species. You know, it's not the arborvitae, the towering, you know, columnar tree. It's been cultivated to retain a smaller shrubby form. Yeah, funny name.
I'll have some comments and things later on. But I just want to raise that one real fast. Before I open it, so thank you very much for your presentation. Pablo, did you want to close up?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to close with a couple of things I just want to bring to the attention of the chair. I've seen many of these meetings. What did want to talk quickly about the unit. The units in the building, we have two 2-bedrooms, 3 1-bedrooms, and 3 studios. 2 of those are going to be affordable, 1 studio and 1 1-bedroom. I personally, I'm still excited to try to get a site where we can do 3-bedroom units. I know the city needs those a lot. Actually, Paul and I had discussions trying to see if we could do that in this site. It was just impossible to make that work. From our point of view, I mean, I'm looking forward to the conversation, but it was something that we thought a lot about, and we try to approach these really thinking about a mix of units. I also want to point out that we've decided to not bring gas into the building. We are going to design, you know, everything thinking about a future tenant for a restaurant, but of course we can't control that. So we want to have that flexibility. But after talking with consultants, and kind of seeing where the future is heading in terms of restaurants and the state and, you know, energy and all that, we are gonna not bring gas. So I just wanted to bring those 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody on the planning board have anything to raise before I open up public testimony? Okay. Seeing none from the planning board at this time, I would like to open up this meeting for public testimony for anybody who would like to speak in support of the application. Please hit the raised hand button and I will call on you. I see Crystal Huff.
This is Steve Carey. Crystal, you've been unmuted from our end. You just need to unmute on your end.
Hello, longtime listener, longtime caller, Crystal Huff, they, them, Ward 5. And I am really excited about this project. I really appreciate the accessibility. I really appreciate the compatibility with the rest of what's going on the street here. I know that there's no back and forth here, but I joined for this presentation and missed the previous one, and just want to note that I don't actually know what group 1 accessible means. If that's a thing that could be answered even though there's no back and forth. And yeah, I'm glad that you're above the minimum for green score. I do pay attention to that as a resident. I appreciate it. And I'm super excited you're not bringing gas pipes in. Thank you.
Thank you. For anybody else that would like to speak in support of the application, please raise your hand. Going once, going twice. We'll close that portion of the public hearing and open it up to anybody that would like to testify in opposition to the application or otherwise express concern thereto. Please raise your hand. I see David Hossack.
David, you've been unmuted on our end. You just need to unmute on your end.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Yes, I sent an email today with 3 concerns. Really, the main one is the story on trash storage. I'm a neighbour. And my name's David Hossack. I live at 16 Wyndham Street, which is on the block. And we have rats. We have already existing restaurants and trash storage. Outside, and 10 more units plus potentially a restaurant. Trash storage is a concern to me. It has somewhere in there, I think it's actually in the transit thing, it says like trash can be stored in the basement and building management will bring it up. All I want to say to that is like, that's great. I'd like it written into like, I don't know how this is done, but make that binding, that the trash is stored internally and not in that commercial patio or the passageway. Can that be done? I don't know. My other concern was just the same thing with parking. I want the parking thing to be like, definite, like there's no parking being provided. Parking permits like not to be issued to tenants. And then what was my other one? I can't really remember. The main one was the trash. Oh yeah, my other point was I sigh at like seeing, this is as much to the planning board as anything. We have a bunch of limits and, we make decisions, we buy property or whatever, we make our plans on like looking at what the setbacks and the height restrictions are. And, like, oh, we need an elevator. I just sigh that, that this is a routine thing that seems to be routine to me, that you're going to give like permission to exceed like a height restriction at the edge of the property, and near enough at the edge of the property. It's frustrating because that's probably great news for the immediate neighbour who can then develop, and that sets precedent. And it's less great news for me because then when that happens, then it affects like I'm just my lowly 2.5 floor house. Anyway, I just sigh at that kind of thing. I know it's inevitable, to be honest. So my main concern is to do with the trash. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in opposition to the application or express concern? Going once, going twice. Seeing no more hands raised, I'm going to close that portion of the public hearing and bring it back to discussion by and between the planning board, the applicant, and staff. So,
Mr. Chair, may I respond to the concern and answer Crystal's question as well?
please do. I was just going to ask
Okay.
you to do that.
Okay. So to start with Mr. Hossick's concern, we're committed to putting the trash in the basement. That's where it needs to go on this project, both for commercial and residential. And this is going to be a passive house certified building, which means it is super tight. There are no rats getting into the basement to pull trash out. And so, you know, we're doing what we can from a building design perspective to solve for the rat problem. And then to Crystal's question, group 1 accessible refers to an adaptable unit. In Massachusetts, there are 2 levels of accessibility. Group 1, which means adaptable, it does still require a fully accessible entrance, you know, wheelchair turning space inside, but kitchens and bathrooms are not what you would deem kind of day 1 fully accessible. They can be modified though. They're designed dimensionally to be modified to be fully accessible, where you could say, for instance, pull a wheelchair underneath a sink and things like that. Group 2 accessibility is required for a building with 20 or more units. 5% of the units are required, I believe, in a building with 20 or more units, and those are fully accessible from the first day. So it's a question of adaptability versus built on day 1. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Paul. I will have just a couple of questions and a couple of thoughts, but I would like to open it up to my fellow board members first. If anybody would like to ask questions or make comments, I see Lynn.
Hi, thanks, Michael. I loved the design that you did of the entrance and following the kind of lines of revival and creating that opening in such a way that the elephant and the light, and I just thought that was exquisitely done. And I say that, which leads me to my question. And you answered it in part, but I want to push a little bit. When you show the whole building on either side, it's just blank walls. And Paul, I think you said at some point it's see blank wall right there. And then it's also on the other side. Now, the other side, you said at some point in time, somebody may, you know, build there. That's the expectation, and that may happen when this building is done. That may happen in 10 or 15 years. We don't know. So given how much you emphasized the mural art on Davis Square, and particularly within this stretch of Elm, I'm wondering if you have any plans, or could you have some plans to commission a mural on one or both walls as a temporary use? Because it's unlikely that this particular wall that you're seeing actually is Revival's going to go up. I mean, let's hope Revival stays there. And yes, it should be bigger, but we're just going to park that for a moment. But certainly on the other wall. So,
Yep.
What about doing some public art here?
So what I can say, I should let Pablo
please.
answer. Yes, I think that we actually considered just showing a mural on there at some point as part of the design, and I should let Pablo speak to it further.
Well, I think you hit it. Thank you, Lynn, for the comments. We had discussions about this from the beginning, and I think in a sense kind of played it more in this safe way, thinking about the context of, you know, surrounded by MR4, and that at some point, you know, whether we want or not, those buildings would come up. So we decided to kind of, knowing that we couldn't put openings in them, to kind of accent the building with the staircase and the blue, and kind of give it a little bit of that sense of something different, but knowing that it would be covered. But you know, we even had this conversation in prep tonight. I mean, I love the idea of commissioning a mural. I think it makes no sense to not do that. And I think it's I agree with you. Revival, we'll see where that goes, but that's going to be like that for a while. And same thing with the other side. We don't know what's going to happen. So I think it's a great way to engage the community. I think it's a great way to pick up on the context of where this building was inspired from. And yeah, I wish I was an artist. So I love the idea. So yes.
Michael, is it possible for us to put in a public art kind of condition in the permit as we've done with a couple of other things? I know we've
We've done
in
that before.
Assembly
I'm happy to
Square,
do
but
it. I'm happy to do it again. You actually took one of the comments that I was going to make, Lynn. I think we're all kind of on the same page. I hate seeing blank walls, even if they're only going to be there for a few years.
I hate seeing blank walls, and you just don't know what's gonna happen. And we talk a lot about walkability and accessibility and kind of creating a vibrant streetscape, but that to achieve that, you need a little bit of weird. Right? You need a little bit of weird. And
Grit,
from my
right?
opinion, I find that this building is, I like the form of the building and how it meets the street. I like the permeability that you have on the first floor and whatnot. So now we got to add a little bit of the weird. And you guys opened the door when you mentioned all of the murals. As soon as I read that a couple days ago, I'm just like, oh, that's going to be my question. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, Lynn. Who else? Yep, Amelia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Overall, I think this is incredibly well done. Like when I saw that building go on the market, this is sort of almost the best outcome I can imagine conceiving for that site. So thank you guys for a project that is, I think, really thoughtful and tasteful and contextual. I have a couple of really nitpicky points because I definitely won't be here at the next meeting. So please, please take these with a grain of salt for consideration. I expect other board members to potentially raise the concern about the unit mix and push a little bit harder on it. And I'll just go ahead and put out there, sometimes when we've been unable to come to a unit mix that included any larger units, we have had applicants then do at least one of the affordable units as a group 2 accessible unit. And I don't know whether that's something that we might consider here if the group goes down that path. So I wanted to just raise that and put that out there in the first place. I'm wondering on just an aesthetic question, whether you have, I saw that the UDC, this was their preferred option. I'm sure there were sort of a lot of variables there. Have you considered putting any kind of detail sort of to define the cornice line? Like it's a beautiful building and I think it's really great and contextual in many respects, but I would be just personally very curious to see even like a very light level of detail there to sort of just cap it off and make it a tiny bit more contextual. So I wonder if that's something you've looked at or would consider looking at. I would again ask the chair if we might consider a condition on materials approval limited to the accent color for the stair tower. I think it's a beautiful concept and I just want to make sure that it's sort of executed in the way that it's shown here. And then last most important question is, I saw that in the sustainability report at the time that was submitted in March, it looked like there was not yet alignment with Eversource on the feasibility of the underground transformers. And to your point, that is a very sensitive piece of infrastructure and an important design feature in the way you've looked at the facade. Do you have confirmation from Eversource at this point that they'll allow that to be underground here, or where does that conversation stand?
Not from Eversource, but we've had discussions with our MEP-FP engineer, and that was their recommendation as well.
Okay, but we're not concerned about the, sorry, I thought there was a neighborhood comment about stormwater infiltration. We're not concerned about that becoming a sticking point when we actually get to an advanced stage of design. We're pretty sure that we'll underground it.
As far as, yes, from what we understand, and our engineer is Zade Engineering. They've worked with Eversource too on projects with below grade transformers. So they're that was their advice, but we haven't submitted, you have to submit a work order to Eversource to get them to weigh in on the transformer, and we haven't done that yet.
Can I ask of staff, just knowing the other case that was on our agenda for today, if there was an issue with that, is that something that would come back to the board as a modification to the plans that, or can we ensure it would? Because that does seem like it's enabling a really sort of critical design feature here.
Yeah, the OSE did not flag anything about that, which is why I haven't included it. But I do believe that if anything with the transformers were to change, it would have to come back for a plan revision, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, can I respond to a couple of Ms. Avos questions?
Yes.
So the cornice detail, we have kept it pretty minimal, as you're pointing out. But I think we'd be open to considering something that felt in the spirit of the building, but had a nod to what you see throughout Davis Square. Like, the thing that comes to mind immediately would be a couple of rows of soldier course brick. I think that would look really nice and add a little bit of a texture difference up there. Just for instance, as one potential solution.
I certainly don't mean to dictate design. It's an aspect of more modern buildings that has come up from time to time, and I'd love if you would entertain it, but I'll leave it to my colleagues on whether that's something that they would mandate or not. Thank you.
I would like to see some
Thank you.
renderings with some options as well.
And
Michael,
is that
Michael, before we get to you, I just want to make sure Paul is done responding to.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Amelia, you got my my hot question tonight preemptively. So I would just like to second my concern with the Eversource thing, and definitely would like some type of ability to review the project again if that assumption fails. I'm sure you picked a really great consultant there, but I think that kind of can have some pretty big impacts to the project if that assumption goes away. So I second Amelia's idea of making sure that's a requirement. I also had some concerns around unit mix. Clearly, your team has listened to a lot of our meetings in the past, so I think I'd second Amelia's creativity here. If there's really no way we can get to a 3-bedroom, I definitely would like to see some flexibility on accessibility being combined with affordability. And then on the positive side, I also really appreciate that you guys have thought about the use of gas and Somerville's goals here for going toward a carbon-free community. I know when we were considering a lot of net zero policies, one of the big pushbacks that came along was restaurant considerations, and the fact that you guys are kind of being proactive about this and saying, hey, I think there's a market of restaurants and the like that don't need this, I think is awesome. So way to kind of lead the charge on this. I think the city should take note of this because, again, this was something that was a big pushback when they were going through their initial drafting of those ordinances. So good on you for all that. And thank you for answering the trash questions as well. I always appreciate you making sure that you've got, it's going to sound like a terrible pun, wasn't intended, an airtight answer to a problem like a trash mitigation in rats. So thank you.
Han, you got anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'm just going to echo all of what my fellow planning board members have said. The only question that I do have, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity. The only question that I do have for the applicant team is that, while I'm very much supportive of the restaurant consideration, the preferred restaurant consideration for the commercial space, should that not pan out, has the applicant team thought about any other commercial uses that they might want to share?
Pablo, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. I'm throwing this out there with a big caveat. I mean, on a personal end, actually, my partner and I run a yoga studio in Harvard Square. And early on, we had talked about potentially seeing if this was a site to incorporate a business like that. That I think, I know the gym around the corner opened up, but I think that our studio kind of fulfills a different niche. And so that is one use that we thought about. We actually explored various options about including the basement, and then it just became a little too kind of overwhelming and kind of silly, and we were trying to have a balance between the resident and the commercial. So I think there could be a version of that. I think again, I don't want to make this about us, but that is something that we've thought about. But something similar to that type of business, I think, could work really well here. Personally, I wouldn't, I think retail is not so successful. I feel like something that speaks to the neighbors and the context, but what do I know? I'm more going from the heart there. But yes, we've talked about that if restaurants weren't something that worked.
Sure. Thank you so much for that response. And I understand that we're not seeking to predict the future here. So I certainly appreciate your consideration here. And that's all I have at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Everybody's kind of brought up some of the issues and questions that I had, which is good because it means we're all generally on the same page with where we think the project can be made a little bit better. My question, I think did I see if we're not putting parking in, do we still have the condition on this, the standard condition?
This is Kit. I don't believe that the standard condition was included in the staff memo that the board received, but similar to the last application, I don't think the applicant would have a problem adding it in.
Yeah, let's add it in. Let's add it in. Okay, so for next time, guys, I think we're pretty much on the same page here. We'd like to see some definition of the top of the building. We'd like to see condition for the mural. I will just say I think the project's fantastic. I think you guys did a wonderful job. I love the idea of such a large, open, and green roof space. I think it's going to be a great amenity and a nice way to achieve that green score. I think we've been pushing for more and more green, roof options in the city over the last couple of years, and thanks for listening to that as well. So
great, thank you. So we'll come back next time with some options that show the top of the building definition there and a mural.
I think we're in a good place to hopefully move forward in 2 weeks.
Terrific.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. We will see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Jim
Have a
moves
good
to
night.
continue this. Yep. Jim moves to continue this agenda item to the 21st, seconded by Amelia. Steve, can we call the roll?
Through the chair, sorry to interrupt. Do you want to leave the written testimony period for this open?
Yes, I do. Let me look at my calendar here. You're 100% right. Slip my mind. Written comment period should close at 9 a.m. on Friday the 15th. Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
Okay. Planning board at somervillema.gov. All right. Can you call a roll on the continuance, please?
Yes. Jahan Habib.
Aye.
Michael McNeely.
Aye.
Lynn Richards.
Aye.
Amelia Aba.
Aye.
And Michael Capuano.
All right. See you in a few weeks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thanks. Have a good night.
I think those are the only items on the agenda. The only other matter of other business was kind of an open-ended point of discussion that Steve wanted to talk about.
Sure. I don't have any particular item of business for this, but I was talking with Dan Bartman and we kind of conferred internally and thought it made sense just to add this item to planning board agendas going forward, just to give planning board members an opportunity at the end of meetings to bring up any questions they have for staff or for each other, just on board administration. Obviously, it can't be related to any specific project or application before the board. But yeah, I mean, I think we've sort of been doing that informally in meetings past, but this just sort of formally codifies it as an agenda item. If there is no points of discussion, obviously we don't have to have a discussion, but I just thought it'd be helpful to add it so that we have it on the agenda if there is a topic that a planning board member wants to bring forward.
I think that's fine. I usually ask people anyway, but having a formalized, open-ended question and wrap session is fine by me. And with that in mind, does anybody have anything they'd like to talk about? All right. Nothing else on our agenda at 7:27 p.m. The chair moves to adjourn, seconded by our wonderful vice chair, Amelia. Steve, can you call the roll?
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
Lynn Richards,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
and Michael Capiano.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice night.
Thank you.